These things also I have observed, that knowledge of our world is to be nurtured like a precious flower, for it is the most precious thing we have. Wherefore guard the word written, and heed words unwritten, and set them down ere they fade. Learn then well the arts of reading, writing, and listening true, and they will lend you to the greatest art of all, understanding. Alaundo was a seer that existed over 1000 years ago. He is actually associated with the library town of Candlekeep, and in the 3rd edition Forgotten Realms campaign setting we can see that Alaundo arrived in Candlekeep as far back as 75 DR. According to Anurok, the Empire of Shade, Candlekeep became the home of Alaundo and his collected prophecies. One of his most famous prophecies was the Ballspawn crisis, which we witnessed the aftermath of in the original Baldur's Gate games. In the very first moments of the first Baldur's Gate games, we can come across chanters within the castle grounds in Candlekeep that are reciting other Alaundo prophecies. These chanters are monks, and the following is said about them in Volo's Guide to the Sword Coast. The chanter leads the endless chant of Alaundo's prophecies that wends its way around the citadel, day and night in continuous utterance of the sage's predictions. He is spelled in this duty by 3 assistants, the voices. The voice of the north, the voice of the east, and the voice of the south. In the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, these monks are part of a larger group called the Avowed, that all have different roles within the Great Library of Candlekeep. So Alaundo's prophecies are very important to the monks of Candlekeep, and if one was to take a trip to the Great Library, then they would surely hear the chanters reciting its prophecies around the grounds. So let's take a look at what the prophecies were in the original Baldur's Gate game. By the way, if you're wondering why several of the chanters are dead, it is because they have a constant habit of speaking over each other.
So saith the great Alaundo, a great host will come from the Lord of murder shall.
The voice of the east says this.
In the year of the turrets, a great host will come from the east like a plague of locusts. So saith the wise Alaundo.
The year of the turret was 1360 DR, and the prophecy refers to the Grand Army of the Tugan. This is spoken about extensively in the Horde Campaign Guide 1991, but basically the prophecy refers to a huge army led by a man called Yamun Kahan, and seems to be based pretty obviously on the real-world Mongol hordes. The voice of the north says,
when conflict sweeps across the dales, the great lizards of the north shall descend with fire and fury. So saith the great Alaundo.
This likely refers to the Second Interdale War of 1356 DR. However, the Great Lizards part is referenced in the 1987 Forgotten Realms campaign set when it describes in detail dragons flying south and destroying many towns and regions. The voice of the south says the following.
When shadows descend upon the lands, our divine lords will walk alongside us as equals. So saith the great Alaundo.
This refers to the Year of Shadow in 1358 DR, and the Divine Lords walking alongside us as equals refers to the time of troubles when gods were sent to walk the earth as mortals. The voice of the West says this.
The worm shall wander the earth, and such a pestilence will follow in his wake that all that know of his passing shall be struck down by the plague. So saith the wise Alaundo.
This likely refers to an event that happened in 1317 DR, when, according to the Grand History of the Realms, a plague called the Plague of Dragons swept through the Vilhon Reach. It caused its victims to develop flaking skin and madness. And finally, the main chanter says the following.
The Lord of murder shall perish, but in his doom he shall spawn a score of mortal progeny. Chaos will be sown from their passage. So saith the wise Alaundo.
This, of course, refers to the Ballspawn crisis. According to Anurok, Empire of Shade, Alaundo built his prophecies upon the works of a far older seer that he called the T-Source. This T-Source is also known as the Terraseer, and we can find information on them in Netheril, Empire of Magic. The following is said about them. Few believed that the Terraseer was an actual human, for his first documented appearance was in 205 NY, when he showed the early Netherese how to hide and fight a league of orcs pouring from the mountains. His last documented appearance was in 3514 NY. He arrived in the conclave of Karsus and warned that the goddess Mistral was about to face her greatest challenge, one that could alter the way the Netherese viewed magic for all time. You remember Karsus? He's the one that Gale speaks about in Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes, Karsus. Karsus was perhaps the most powerful wizard that ever lived. The child who would be a god.
We can see in the 3.5 edition supplement Lost Empires of Faerun that the Terraseer used to be part of the Saruk Empire, an ancient reptilian empire far more ancient than even the Netherese Empire. There is a buried city called Urim that houses 60 Saruk liches that take turns ruling their tiny realm, each emerging from hibernation to take throne for 4 years, then returning to somnolence in the crypt of dreaming lizards when the next lich awakens. Unbeknownst to the Netherese, the arch-wizard known as Arthindol the Terraseer was actually a Saruk lich from ancient Istosafil, who adopted the guise of a human arcanist during his turns on the throne of Urim. By making periodic visits to Netheril, he sought to further the study of the art among the Netherese and shape the evolution of their history. It is unclear whether the Terraseer considers his Netherese experiment a success or a disaster, but he has not emerged from Urim since Karsus's folly. It will be interesting to know if Wizards of the Coast will choose to keep the Terraseer in mind in future D&D books and video games. We know that the Netherese are really starting to get some attention paid to them in Baldur's Gate 3, and the Netherese are spoken about extensively in Wizards' most recent campaign, Icewind Dale: Rime of the Frost Maiden. And there is even one small mention of Arthindol in 5th edition. In the starter set Mine of Phandelver, we can see the following. What is the name of the wizard who built the tower at Old Owl Well? Cost won't risk the Banshee's anger, but the characters could ask the question for him. Agatha knows the name. Arthindol. Old Owl Well is described as a watchtower built thousands of years ago by a long-vanished empire. We can see an account of this in Netheril Empire of Magic when the following is said. The Terraseer found an ideal location for an outpost that could provide water for caravans and scouts headed into the mineral-rich mountains, but they had to remove creatures that called the land home. Owlbears. In what was soon to be known as the Caravan War, Netherese scouts and outriders destroyed the 3,000 owlbears, creatures given existence by the creator races thousands of years ago. Once safety was provided by the warriors, the Arcanists came into the town and set up one of the most elaborate piping systems available, drilling over 5 miles into the crust of Toril. The Arcanists provided the Old Owl Well outpost with an everlasting water supply. The point is that Arthindol has at least been mentioned in 5th edition, and it makes me wonder what, if any, role he will have in the future. So Arthindol was the seer to end all seers, but it is Alaundo who the world at large knows of, and it was his own interpretations of Arthindol the Terraseer's prophecies that are chanted by the monks of Candlekeep. Alaundo is now dead during the current age, but his skull is an artifact that many sorely desire. We can see the following in Drizzt Guide to the Underdark regarding this. The skull of Alaundo, a priceless relic venerated not only by the avowed monks of Candlekeep, but by the faithful of Denir, Ogma, and Savras, is said to have been recovered from a firedrake lair in the Deepwing Mountains, and offered for sale in the markets of Lorbath. As commonly happens following rumoured sightings, illithid activity along the southern shores of the Deepwash has sharply increased. It then goes on to say this. According to legend, Alaundo's skull was stolen shortly after his death. Supposedly, anyone possessing the relic can contact the Great Seer using a simple Speak with Dead spell, despite the passage of centuries. The Illithids of Arundel have long sought to claim the skull of Alaundo and have proven their willingness to track down every rumour regarding its location, regardless of how wild it sounds. This skull is still missing, and we know the importance of the Speak with Dead spell in Baldur's Gate 3. Could it be that Alaundo's skull will make an appearance? The Illithids of Arundel are some of the most powerful, if not the most powerful enclave of Illithids in the whole of Faerun. The Illithid Creed that would most likely be interested in this skull is the Lawtaker Creed, who sought any knowledge fervently. If you're curious, the Deepwash is located here, and the events of Baldur's Gate 3 so far take place here, so it is a fair distance, but wherever Alaundo's skull is now, I'm sure it could shed a great deal of light on many mysteries in the realms. Perhaps we will get some more information on Alaundo when the new D&D supplement Candlekeep Mysteries releases on the 16th of March. Okay, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed the video, then do please give me a like and subscribe, and if you feel like it, you can check out the Patreon or the Discord below. See you next time, bye!